At 34,000 feet above the Earth, the sky is supposed to be loud. Engines roar, air rushes past metal, and lives move forward toward their destinations. But on one quiet morning, something terrifying happened high above Greece. A passenger plane was flying perfectly, yet nobody inside was responding. No voices, no movement, no distress calls, just silence. For nearly 2 hours, the aircraft circled the sky like a ghost that refused to land. Fighter jets rushed in expecting the worst, a hijacking, a terror attack, or something even darker. But when the pilots looked inside, their blood ran cold. Every passenger sat still in their seats. Oxygen masks covered their faces. The cockpit looked empty, and the plane kept flying, steady and calm, as if nothing was wrong. What nobody knew at that moment was that 121 people were already trapped in a nightmare that could not escape. This was not an explosion, not an attack, not a sudden crash. This was a slow, invisible killer that turned a normal flight into one of the most haunting aviation tragedies ever recorded. This is the story of the ghost plane. The flight began like any other summer morning. Families were traveling for holidays, couples held hands, excited about new memories. Some passengers were heading home, others toward long-awaited vacations. The aircraft was a Boeing 737, not old, not faulty on the surface, and trusted by airlines across the world. The crew was experienced. The captain had spent decades in the air, logging thousands of hours. The first officer wasn't new either. They had flown together before. On paper, everything looked safe, routine, predictable. The plane taxied smoothly on the runway, lifted into the sky, and climbed into the bright morning air. Inside the cabin, people relaxed. Seatbelts loosened, conversations started. Nobody had any idea that something small, something easy to miss, had already sealed their fate. Before takeoff, maintenance work had been completed on the aircraft. Nothing unusual, just standard checks. But one switch, placed close to others on the overhead panel, had been left in the wrong position. It controlled cabin pressurization, a system passengers never think about, yet one that quietly keeps everyone alive at high altitude. Normally, it works automatically, adjusting air pressure so people can breathe comfortably, even when flying miles above the ground. This time, it was set to manual, and nobody noticed. Not the engineer after maintenance, not the pilots during pre-flight checks. That single oversight waited patiently as the plane climbed higher. As the aircraft passed 10,000 feet, a warning alarm sounded in the cockpit. It was a familiar sound, one pilots usually hear on the ground when something isn't configured correctly for takeoff. Hearing it in the air confused them. Instead of recognizing the real danger, their minds focused on the wrong problem. They believed it was a minor technical issue, a distraction. While they searched for answers, the cabin pressure continued to drop silently. Oxygen levels thinned. Passengers began to feel lightheaded. Some probably felt dizzy, others sleepy. At that altitude, the human brain doesn't scream for help. It gently fades. Judgment weakens. Confusion takes over. And then, consciousness slips away.
Inside the cabin, oxygen masks drop from the ceiling. For passengers, these masks are designed only to buy time, not to save lives. A few minutes, that's all. Children likely reached for them instinctively. Adults tried to help loved ones. But hypoxia doesn't feel like panic at first. It feels calm, almost peaceful. That's what makes it so deadly. People don't realize what's happening until they no longer can. One by one, voices disappeared. Movements stopped. Families fell silent together. In the cockpit, the pilots were fighting confusion too. Their thinking slowed, procedures blurred, and before they could identify the true cause, they lost consciousness as well. With everyone on board incapacitated, the aircraft continued flying on autopilot. It climbed to its assigned altitude of 34,000 feet and followed its programmed route with chilling perfection. Air traffic controllers tried to contact the flight again and again. No response. Other planes nearby attempted radio contact. Silence. The aircraft crossed into Greek airspace without clearance, still following its path like nothing was wrong. Controllers faced a terrifying question. Was this a hijacking? Had the crew been taken hostage? Or had something far worse happened inside that sealed metal tube in the sky? Greek authorities scrambled fighter jets to intercept. 2 F-16s sliced through the air, racing toward the unresponsive plane. As they drew closer, the pilots looked inside through the cockpit windows. What they saw would haunt them forever. The captain's seat was empty. The first officer was slumped, unmoving. In the cabin, passengers sat upright, frozen in place, oxygen masks hanging from their faces. No signs of struggle, no chaos, just rows of silent bodies. It looked less like an emergency and more like time itself had stopped. For hours, the ghost plane circled above Athens in a holding pattern, waiting for instructions that would never come. Fuel slowly burned away. Hope faded with it. Then, something unexpected happened. A figure appeared in the cockpit, a man wearing a blue shirt and dark vest. He sat in the captain's seat and tried to take control. Fighter pilots signaled to him, desperate for any sign of communication. He waved back. For a brief moment, it looked like a miracle. Someone was alive. That man was a flight attendant who also held a basic pilot license. Using portable oxygen, he had survived longer than the others. But flying a commercial jet requires specialized training he did not have. The engines began to fail as fuel ran low. He tried to call for help, but precious seconds slipped away. One engine shut down. The plane tilted. Then the second engine failed. Gravity took over. The ghost finally fell. The aircraft crashed into the mountains north of Athens. All 121 people on board died. Families waiting at airports never heard familiar footsteps. Phones rang unanswered. Vacations turned into funerals. An entire flight vanished, not because of violence, but because of a simple human mistake and a chain of missed chances. Investigators later pieced together the truth. The switch, the alarm misunderstood, the slow creep of hypoxia. Each step alone seemed small. Together, they formed a tragedy. The aviation world learned painful lessons. Training changed, warning systems were redesigned, procedures became stricter, because 121 silent lives demanded that their deaths mean something. But the haunting image remains. A plane flying calmly through blue skies, passengers seated peacefully. No screams, no explosions, just silence at 34,000 feet. A reminder that sometimes the most terrifying disasters don't arrive with noise. They arrive quietly, and by the time anyone realizes what's wrong, it's already too late.